Hello and welcome to this tutorial on getting trains moving in Crayta. So in this tutorial I'm going to have trains moving around and I don't actually need to do any scripting. To do this we're going to go in the community and we're going to look for the TrackWorx package. You'll find that there's one package called TrackWorx by the Degra, which is EDC at Unit 2. Ed's really passionate about trains and he knows a lot about how they work, and he's also a programmer, so he's made a fantastic and very comprehensive package for putting together trains and train tracks and all of the rest of it in TrackWorx. You can find his package guide on the forum as well, which is very thorough, and it goes through a quick start kind of situation where you can very quickly get up and running with TrackWorx and look at how to use it. And then it goes in a lot more detail, finishing with an FAQ, which tells you some of the most commonly asked questions and pitfalls of using TrackWorx and how to use it. Ed keeps it up to date with all of the new releases of trains that are going on, as well as any updates to Crayta, so that it's leveraging the system as best it can. So it's definitely one of those packages that is worth knowing about. So once you've installed TrackWorx, then there's a couple of things you need to do to set it up so that it works in your game world. The first thing is to find the TW system template in your templates part of your library. So click on the templates part and find the TW system and then add that into your game world, either by clicking on system and then clicking in your game world, or you can click and drag it into your game world. Once you have it there, it might be nice to put it at 00 so that it's in a location, but it doesn't really matter. And then you need to think about what kind of train you're going to add. Are you going to add a monorail or a minecart? We're going to look at the steam train. So knowing that I want to make a steam train means that I should add the TW train steam prototypes as a child of TW system. So whatever type of train you want to make, you need to add that prototype as a child of TW system. So I'm going to add TW train steam prototypes. I'm going to click and drag that and let go on TW system so that it adds it as a child of TW system. So this is essentially a collection of all of the different things that exist in TW, in the train, in the steam train stuff, but with all of the mathematical data that it needs in order to run the train around the track. So it's got things like the length of the cars, the length of the tracks, the equations of the curves, all of that sort of stuff. So that's now been added as a child of TW system, which will kind of handle a lot of the logic behind the scenes as we go. And now we can start building our train track. So I'm going to go to the meshes. I'm going to type in train and we can find the train tracks. If you're after monorail, then type in monorail. Essentially type in whatever type of thing you're after, or you can just browse it. I've got my train tracks here. So I'm just going to start and just going to make a very simple loop. So we've got a straight and then a curve. Oh, I should say also, it's a good idea to set your grid size to 8 because it means that when you're positioning things, they really nicely lock in together, as you can see there. So 8 is the right number for the steam train and all the mechanical revolution train stuff. But if you are using the monorail, then actually the unit you will need is probably more like 4. So the grid size of 4 for that one. And for the minecart, it's 5. Although don't quote me on that. You can find that in Ed's package guide, where he specifies the grid size that is a good grid size to use to make sure things all click together. So I've got my grid size of 8, and I'm just building this loop around here. So I've got another bit of track there. While we've got the curve selected, let's put it down here as well. So we've got this bit of curve, this bit of curve, and then we need this final bit of straight here. There we go. So I've got a loop of a track. Now for this track to work with TrackWorx, each part of the track actually needs a script attached to it. So I'm going to click on this straight down the bottom here first. I'm going to click Entity, Add, Script, and the script we're after is the TW track section. So I've added TW track section to this piece of straight track. And now that I've done that, I need to add it to all of the other parts of the track as well. So entity, add, script, TW track section. and on this one too. If you've got a lot of track to do, it can help to search for TW track section, and then that filter remains whenever you click on add script. So now we can just add script and it's the top one. Might make it a little bit faster. Perfect, there we go. So all of the track has this TW track section script on it. Now we can add a train. So I'm going to head to the templates part of my library, and I'm going to find the TW train steam loco. This is the locomotive, the front of the train, the engine that's going to pull the rest of it. So I'm going to position it the way round that I want it to go, and near the track that I want it to start on. So I'm going to place it there. Now, if yours is anything like mine, then you might have accidentally placed it on some of the prototypes somewhere. If you've done that, right click on the route of your train. So if you're not sure where that is, if you click on the train somewhere and find the route of it, which is this locator icon, and you're looking for TW Train Steam Loco 1, so click on that, right click and click Unparent, which will remove it from those prototypes and put it at the root, and then let's just drag. So click and drag it onto terrain, and then it's on the same level as all of the pieces of track. So I've got my steam train. Now I just need to give it a little bit of speed. So a really simple way to do this, and we'll look at a better way in the future, is to give it a speed in the TW transform script. Now if I press F5 to run that, we can see that it has started moving and away it goes. We have a moving train. It's really good fun with all the sound effects and the smoke and everything like that. It's, yeah. So that's essentially how to get a moving train, but let's not stop there. Let's see what else we can do with this. So the train, the locomotive on its own is fine, but it would be more interesting if we can add some more parts of the train to it. So we could add a coach, we can add a tender, a wagon. Let's just add a couple of coaches. So I'm going to put one there and one there. So we've added 2 coaches, and you can see that we've got 3 parts to our train now. Now we need to hook them up so that they know about each other. So I'm going to select the locomotive. I'm using the hierarchy over here because it means I can select the root object of each of these. Again, if you don't know where that is, click on one aspect, any aspect of the thing you want to select, and find the locator there, the locator at the root. So I'm going to click on the locomotive, and within here I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to find the TW vehicle script, and then I need to choose a next vehicle or a previous vehicle, and that will essentially tell TrackWorx these are coupled together. So the next vehicle is one of the carts on the train that's towards the front of the train. Now this locomotive is at the front, so we're not going to have a next vehicle. The previous vehicle is any carts that are attached to the train that are behind this one. So as this is at the front of the train, we need to select the next this coach here as our previous vehicle. So we can either drag and drop coach 1 onto previous vehicle, or we can use the drop down and navigate through there to find coach 1. So that's the locomotive done. Let's do the coach. So making sure the root coach is selected here, the locator there. Find the next vehicle, so towards the front. Next is towards the front, so we need the locomotive there. So let's drag and drop that onto there. And previous vehicle, so towards the back, is coach 2. And finally, let's click on coach 2, and we need to have coach 1 as its next vehicle. So there we go. So we've got the locomotive with one previous vehicle, which is this coach. We've got this coach, which has got a next vehicle, which is the locomotive, and a previous vehicle, which is the other coach, and the other coach, which has just got one next vehicle, which is the first coach. Let's press F5 and see whether that's made any difference. Okay, so now our train is moving around and it is pulling these coaches along with it. There we go. Cool. So Lastly, I think it'd be quite fun to look at a way to make our train stop. So there is a lot more to TrackWorx than what this tutorial is covering. This is really just scratching the surface. I'm just going to look at one of the really interesting pieces of functionality, but there are a lot more aspects to this, including driving the train, boarding the train and traveling with as a camera on top of it and all sorts of things. So there's a lot of exciting things you can do with this. If you're interested in looking at what else you can do with TrackWorx, then go to the play menu in Crayta and search for TrackWorx, because Ed has made TrackWorx. Ed has made a showcase which shows you all of the different things you can do with the TrackWorx package. Okay, so let's make it so that the train can stop. So we've got this piece of track. I want it to stop at this piece of track. So what I'm going to do is add a locator to this. So entity, create child, locator, new locator. So I've added a locator, and I need to attach a blocker to that locator. So entity add script, TW transform. So this is going to be our blocker, the thing that stops our train. And so we're going to keep blocker checked. We're going to uncheck trigger events. And we're going to select the piece of track that it's attached to. So you can either do that in the drop down, or you can click and drag that piece of track onto it there. I'm just going to move this train in front of the blocker, in front of the blocking piece of track. And let's increase the speed. So now the train is going a bit faster, and as it comes round, I'm expecting the train to slow down and stop at the blocker that I just added. However, it's just blown past that blocker. It's a runaway train. There is a reason for that. Let's go and have a little investigation. So if I click on my locomotive here, and notice that the speed has been set in the TW transform, and that essentially means that whatever this TW transform is attached to, it will move around the track at that speed constantly, regardless of what else happens. And there's actually a better way to do this than using that for the train. So I'm going to set that to 0. And I'm going to do entity add script, and I'm going to add the TW vehicle module auto driver script. If I scroll to the bottom of the entity editor, I can find that script here, and it's got this target speed, which I can set to 1250. And essentially what this is going to do is it's going to constantly try and reach that speed. So let's press F5. And notice that it's starting slower and accelerating. So it's behaving a lot more like an actual train. It's still not quite at its maximum speed. However, it's trying to get there. And now we can see it's starting to get a bit faster. But it's pulling into the piece of track which has the blocker on it. And it scans ahead all the time to see whether there's any blockers coming up. And if there is, then it slows the train down. And it stops exactly where that blocker is. So there you go. That's how to get a train to stop at a station. And if you wanted to, you could create a switch that hooks up to that script to turn on or off the blocker, so that your players can be in charge of when the train stops and where and all that sort of stuff. So it's really versatile, and there's lots of fun things you can do with that. So that's not the end of the of what you can do with TrackWorx. There's still plenty more you can do. I'm just going to delete that and show you that it's also possible to use the same system, but to customize it heavily to do some quite interesting things. So here's a canal strip that I've created. Let's just put my grid size at 1. And with my canal, I've also made a narrowboat. So the canal, if I take a look at each section of this, you'll see that it has a piece of train track in each bit. It's just that the visibility is set to invisible. And actually this narrowboat is a child, this barge is a child of essentially a locomotive. So you can see that it's actually got the train there. I've just made it invisible. And so the locomotive kind of handles the logic for moving the canal boat. And if I press F5, it's using the TrackWorx package, and it's essentially using a locomotive, and the canal boat is a child of the locomotive. The locomotive is set to invisible, and I now have a canal system in my game. So there's lots you can do with it. If you go and check out the TrackWorx showcase, you'll see that there's duck rides and roller coasters and all sorts of things going on over there. It's a phenomenal package to get to grips with, and the more you use it, the more confident you'll get with it, and the more exciting things you can make with it, and maybe even contribute some ideas of your own to the package. And get in touch with Ed if you want to get any more help on Discord, or just go on the Ask Anything channel, because there's plenty of people there who've already used it and are quite happy to help each other out. And that's it from me, and I really look forward to seeing what you do with TrackWorx in Crayta.